Mailbag. Happy Friday or Saturday if you're listening. The only thing better than the Friday mailbag is the holiday weekend mailbag, right? Woo. Looking forward to it. Big plans, anybody? Big Labor Day plans?
Not working on Monday.
That's nice. I've got golf.
Yes, you are.
You are working.
We're doing it. We have to do a show on Monday. Someone's got to do it. Jamie always does it.
I've got golf. I've got golf all 3 days of the next except for Mondays. I actually got 2 days. I got Saturday and Sunday golf, so I'm super excited with that.
All right, good for you guys. Listen, let's get right into the emails. Fantasy football.
Do you take your toilet with you?
Oh yeah, I take the toilet right there with me. People call me Toilet Boy on the golf course as well. but before we get into emails, Adam, we have to at least address the draftathon to some extent.
Sure.
Okay, so let me start by saying this. Adam does a really incredible job hosting that show. It's 6 hours straight. I thought this was our best production yet by far. I thought it had a great mix of fantasy analysis and then the funny hour, which was like obviously old school people who used to be on the show and Nando, and then someone who wasn't really familiar with this game, but I apologize for that. Nick Costos?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I thought he was absolutely hilarious the entire show. I heard a story about Dave and the calzone. That was one of the fun. I was literally just cracking up.
Amazing.
I never heard that story before. Cracking up. Adam throughout the whole thing carried it, no matter if it was serious or fantasy related. And I thought that was amazing. He did a great job. With that said, I've been asked by multiple people to hold you accountable for a few things.
Okay.
Let me start with the most important thing here. You agreed if Fantasy Cares made a massive donation, which they did, to shave 3 lines in your head with a buzzer, which you never did. And then your excuse for it, which I heard on yesterday's FFT when I was listening back last night, was unbelievable. It was my wife was on an important call. It was 6:30 at night. What are you talking about?
She was.
Such a lie.
No, as I told you, we are moving next week, which is really wonderful timing for me. Closing on a house, and we had an important phone call to make. I go up there. It's 9:30, it was 9:30 ish, and she's on the phone, and I'm like, "Hey, do you want to shave 3 lines in my head for charity?" And she's like, "No, I can't do that right now." I was like, "Okay, that was bad timing." So I am sorry. I would have done it. Jamie did it for me at the barber the next day.
Well, yeah, exactly. Though you then had a second opportunity, Adam, when Jamie came on the show and showed to the audience and on Twitter that he had himself had buzzed 3 lines, and there you can see it now if you're watching on YouTube. You've since been able.
I did 6 actually. I did 6.
6 lines make up for Adam's lack of 3. And let me just say this, Adam. You've had ample time since then to find your wife when she's not on an important call.
The donation's already been made. What do I have to do?
It's not about that, Adam. It's not about the donation already been made. It's in the spirit of what Fantasy Cares gave. And the fact that you showed up today without 3 lines, I actually made a mistake. I didn't have time. It was a busy morning for editing. I wanted to show up with 3 lines myself. Then we get everyone to do it, Dave. Then we really. But you know what, Adam? It was disappointing. And also, you were supposed to play guitar. Dave made a big donation for you to play guitar. You played like 3 of the softest sounding licks from an Allman Brothers song, my favorite band ever, that I couldn't even really hear the song because it was so soft. You're like, here's 4 licks on a guitar, and we'll call that a day. So you know what, Adam?
All right, listen, I'm sorry. I guess 6 hours of my time wasn't enough for you, Dan Schneier. Dan did a great job answering chat questions the entire night. Let's get to the emails here. We got lots of stuff to talk about. Okay, we're actually doing a draft as we speak as well. But the biggest thanks should really go to everybody who donated $120,000+ to St. Jude. Amazing performance from all of you out there. This is from Rick. Should I trade Calvin Ridley for T. Higgins?
Oh, wow. I have Ridley ranked 1 spot higher, but I think if you drafted T. Higgins and you did it with confidence, then you should just stay put. They're back-to-back in my rankings for me.
I think that's fair. They're literally back-to-back in my rankings as well. I'm looking at it right now, but I have Higgins 1 spot higher, so I would stick with Higgins.
If you drafted Jamar Chase in the first round and then you had to make that decision, would you go away from your rankings and take Ridley over Higgins?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we have a real-life scenario that we're dealing with. What if Joe Burrow's calf injury pops up again?
I know. I'd actually, on that subject, I took Fields over Burrow in this draft we're doing right now.
Wow.
6-point or 4-point passing teams?
6.
Wow, look at you. Passed on your guy. I mean, I haven't ranked that way, so I don't have a problem with it, but Burrow's your guy.
I know. Yeah, I don't know. I just sorry, I'm on the clock.
You should have just waited for Anthony Richardson, your favorite quarterback.
These wide receivers really suck right now, gotta tell you. Yeah, so did you always have it ranked that way? Sorry, again, I was on the clock. I made a pick.
Ridley over Higgins?
No, Fields over Burrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Burrow's. I never moved Burrow from the calf injury. I considered putting Herbert ahead of him, but I did not do it.
All right, next email is from Matt. Grade the trade. Non-PPR league. Give up Eckler and Waller. Get McCaffrey and Hawkinson. In non-PPR. Give up Eckler and Waller for McCaffrey and Hawkinson.
Eckler and Waller for McCaffrey and Hawkinson.
I think it's a pretty fair trade overall. I think I would take the McCaffrey side, though, even in non-PPR.
That'd be like a C+.
C+ for you?
C is even. No, for you, it sounds like a C+.
Oh.
Slight win.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's very even, yeah.
All right, this is from Mark. Hello, Ed, Marilyn, and Eugene. Oh, boy.
that's going to be a tough one for me.
Ed, Marilyn, and Eugene.
The fact that there's a Marilyn and a Eugene in there, that shows how old those names are, and that I'm not going to likely be able to pick this one off.
Mark is making the comparison about the Jags of this year and the Eagles of 2017, which was their Super Bowl season. Head coach, Doug Peterson. Quarterback, Lawrence versus Wentz. Wide receiver, Ridley versus Jeffrey. Tight end, Ingram versus Ertz. Now, Adam, Joel, Maggie, Chris, Holland, Shelley, Ruth Ann, and Maurice. Do you think the Jags are better than the Eagles guys? I do.
Yeah, I think the Jags could have a better offense than that Eagles offense for sure.
Yes.
Northern
and that is Pete Prisco calls the biggest
on that he thinks his Jags offense is going to be as good as the Chiefs.
Yeah, Pete also calls that Eagles team the biggest accident in NFL history.
There you go.
You know what they did though? I mean, they were RPOing everybody to death, and that kind of caught people by surprise, I think, a little bit. Peterson coming over and changing and just shocking people, I think, or I don't know if shocking is the right word. And then the RPOs got much less effective. Wentz got much less effective, but I think Lawrence is just so much better than Wentz post ACL injury. All right, from Ulysses Adter, dear Evgeny, Yamir, Sydney, and Mario.
Those are Penguins hockey players.
They are, and it's too damn hot for a Penguin. What are your thoughts on drafting several members of the same team whenever the value falls? Obviously, it may not be smart playing all of them in a single week, but how would you proceed throughout the season, and when would you consider potentially trading one of them if your league mates know you have multiple on the same team? I have Bijan in round 1, London in round 7, and Pitts in round 8.
Go ahead, Jamie. I just said I typically like doing it if it's quarterbacks and receivers and tight ends. I do not typically like pairing up quarterbacks with running backs. I think they cannibalize their touchdown upside.
I mean, look, he drafted these guys at amazing values.
True.
So London's typically around 5 pick, Pitts around 6 picks. So you got good draft value on those guys. But I don't think it's a bad idea to explore a trade if you can, just because there's going to be weeks where maybe 2 of those guys aren't performing. Most likely it's the 2 receiving options. So I would see if you can flip them, unless somebody just gives you an overwhelming value for Bijan.
Okay. I got an email that I need to read from a colleague. Remind me, Dan. This is from Mike.
Is it hey, if you were to leave the company, what would you do?
Mike in the kind of real East Coast, which is DC. There's been discussion.
I like that. It's a throwback to last week's mailbag. Yep. Nice.
There's been discussion of the new offense in Baltimore, and I've heard a lot of impact on the running backs on Lamar. How do you see things impacting the passing game in Baltimore and Mark Andrews specifically? Jamie?
How does the new offense impact Mark Andrews?
Yeah.
I think it's going to help him. I mean, and anytime that we've discussed this, more volume for Mark Andrews is not a bad thing. So if they're going to throw the ball more, while there are better options around him than there ever have been, at least in recent memory, you're talking about, I think this is still the go-to guy for Lamar Jackson by far. As much as Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman and Odell Beckham may make an impact and J.K. Dobbins out of the backfield, but Mark Andrews is still one by far in terms of target distribution. So I think it's going to help him as long as Lamar does what he's supposed to do and Mark Andrews does what he's supposed to do and stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm with Jamie on that. I think overall people are focused on the lack of target share, but overall, like Jamie said, the volume will be so far up that it might not matter. I also still think he's so good at winning those matchups over the middle. The only thing that concerns me there is I do feel like that offense was very, from a personnel standpoint, heavy, as in they would have a lot of tight ends and fullbacks on the field and really sell the run, which would open up some opportunities for Andrews off play action. That may not be there. So that's the one thing that concerns me. But overall, I think he's too good at winning those matchups over the middle that it won't matter.
Random topic here was I took Raheem Mostert in this draft we're doing. Jamie, Jeff Wilson's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, said he thinks Wilson will be back in week 5 after missing the 4 games. I thought that Mike McDaniel's comments were really not seeming to indicate that, and that he was saying, we think he'll be back this year. We're optimistic about him being back this year. So how are you approaching that?
I would still take a late round flyer on Wilson, but like I said on the show we just did on CBS Sports Network, don't be surprised if there's another move happening here, because the Dolphins were in on Dalvin Cook. They were in on Jonathan Taylor. They may be kicking the tires on Kareem Hunt or Leonard Fournette or exploring a trade. Would it shock you at this point, knowing that they brought in Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, if Mike McDaniel reached out to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and said Elijah Mitchell, for a pick, or Jordan Mason for a pick, or somebody that has some sort of connection to that offense in some way, shape, or form? So I think you don't want to go overboard. Adam, you're about to get auto pick.
Yeah, sorry.
You don't want to go overboard with Raheem Mostert at this point, but he obviously is worth taking somewhere in, I think, the 8 to 10 round range, and Wilson's still worth a late round flyer, especially if you have IR spots. It's just, why not just see what happens for the first 5 weeks if you can just stash somebody there?
Okay, this is from Anthony in Tacoma. Hey, Jude, Arnold, and their Delilah.
Hey, Jude.
Hey, Jude. Hey, Arnold, and hey, their Delilah.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Come on. I don't know. That could have been much easier, Dan.
I got one earlier. First of all, did you get the Penguins one right? No.
Did I? You don't think I knew? Yager, Mario,
you get these right. You Google them.
Did you get that one
there?
Right?
Yeah, of course I got the Penguins one right. Like, are you kidding? Dear Babe, Lou, Joe, and Mickey. Oh, those are Yankees. Did you get that one, Adam? Come on now. Anthony wants to know, he has 3 drafts coming up Sunday on 3 different platforms: Sleeper, Yahoo, and ESPN. Anthony, we are not going to read your question. No, just kidding. Are there any clear and obvious values I should be looking at for these platforms compared to y'all's rankings? Yes. What did I say? It was Dobbins. Dobbins and ESPN is going in the 80s. Drake London is going in the 80s too, I think.
And also, Chris Towers did some content around this on the website about a week ago, so you can find that on CBSSports.com. I would say just type in CBS Sports, Chris Towers, go look at his recent articles, and it's one of the 4th or 5th one back. So you'll get some content there for all the values across every platform.
I think, one thing you could do is it's a little bit easier for us that we do our own rankings, if you're so inclined. You can have our rankings page up while you're drafting on other sites, or what might be actually easier is you print it out and just cross off names as they go, and then you sort of are able to see, kind of the old school way. I love having my rankings up when I'm in other platforms, just because okay, man, I like this guy much better than these projections. Am I crazy here? It helps me from a work standpoint as well, but it's just easy to go, pick apart somebody else's site if you are feeling much more confident about certain players.
Okay, I'm looking at Yahoo ADP right now. I don't know that they specify PPR or whatever.
But ADP is a bad way to approach it. I would look more at projections.
Yeah.
Why is ADP a bad way to approach it?
Because you're looking at their ADP, which is the drafts. If you're looking at the projections, that's what a draft room they're looking at.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I'll look at Yahoo PPR rankings, and maybe we're wasting time here. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. It's taking too long. Okay. Anyway,
I love this team. I'm very surprised.
This is from Alex. What's the biggest difference, or who moves the most? Who moves the most going from full PPR to half PPR?
Who moves the most from full to half?
Yeah, in the rankings. What would be the biggest differences?
I think McCaffrey is one of them.
For me, it's more of like Rashad White drops anytime it goes from full to anything else. Jahmyr Gibbs drops a few spots.
Yeah.
James Cook, maybe.
Dobbins goes up.
Dobbins goes up. Chubb goes up.
Yeah.
It's a funny way to say it.
I'm pretty hard on Chubb in the first round in half.
Good for you.
Yeah, no, I don't know if he's. I think a second round pick in full PPR, but he's definitely a first round pick in non, and he's probably a first round pick. Nick Chubb in half PPR. But who does he replace? I would say he probably, to me, I would say he replaces like Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Yep.
That exact tier of receivers, Lamb. Yep.
Yeah. Henry goes from a mid-second round pick to a borderline first rounder.
Right.
Okay. What about Deontay Johnson?
Yeah, I still have Deontay Johnson in our non-PPR rankings, one spot ahead of Pickens, just because I think you heard, Kenny Pickett just said we're going to get him in the end zone. Like it's not going to happen again. So if the touchdowns are close, I think that Deontay has the edge in those formats. In anything that rewards receptions, Deontay should be drafted a couple rounds out of him.
Just kind of funny to say out loud. I said it on our CBS Sports Network show today. Deontay Johnson in the last 2 seasons has finished per game as wide receiver 12 and wide receiver 50 the last 2 years per game.
That happens when you score 0 touchdowns in a year.
I think Jamie is comfortable with this. Dan, are you comfortable with Deontay Johnson as a top 48 pick? Because 2 drafts in a row, I've either taken him or wanted to take him late in round 4, about 45th, 6th, or 7th overall.
I would say borderline comfortable for me. I avoided him in all drafts last year, and I think I got a little lucky because he didn't score touchdowns and it ended up being a good avoid. But ultimately, I just don't buy into Kenny Pickett's breakout this year. I don't buy into it actually translating to the regular season. He threw 10 touchdown passes last year. They brought back the same coordinator. I've watched that film, and those are some of the worst route combinations, I think, of any offense from a schematic standpoint in the NFL right now with the same coordinator coming back. So it's just hard for me to buy into that offense taking off. And I think it could look like last year where there's just no passing consistency, which makes it hard to have an every week starter there. So I'm borderline comfortable because the touchdown regression makes me think that he is a value, but I just don't want to get too comfortable taking that receivers in that offense. Like someone for me, I've been all off season is George Pickens, and I'll never come around on that one. And I don't have him in any teams, and I won't have him on any teams.
Yeah, always know who you're drafting with, because most likely you won't have to take Deontay Johnson in the 4th round. We do a lot of full PPR 3 wide receiver leagues. Deontay Johnson's going something like 90th in CBS Sports ADP. He's actually going behind George Pickens. He's going 90. He's going 100th. 100th.
I mean, without an injury situation, and I don't have a list in front of me, but I'm just going to, blanket statement, like top 3 bounce back candidates. Yeah. Top 5 bounce back candidates.
Okay, I'm sorry. He's going 100th in non-PPR. Deontay's still going 77th, though, in full PPR, which is obviously a lot later than 47th, which is where I'm taking him right now.
Pretty late, though, for someone who got almost 150 targets last year.
Right. That's the thing. It's like, as bad as things were last year, the targets were still there, and they will be better this year. I don't think Dan's off that, it's hard to just go all of a sudden Kenny Pickett is fixed. But the fact that number, just that number alone, forget about however you want to break it down, just that number alone, that raw number of the targets, that's what he's done almost every year of his career. And now you're getting a better sophomore quarterback. Again, to whatever degree you think better, but better. And he's just an amazing, amazing value. And the production, I think, will bounce back in a big way.
Dan, we had this conversation a few days ago, and I thought maybe there would be about 4 Giants, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a running back who all had 80 to 100 targets, but I thought maybe that would have been a little bit low. Give me your top 4 target getters on the Giants and try to put a number on it.
Okay. We'll start with the obvious number 1 getter here, Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller should see about, and this is all assuming everyone's healthy. I'm just going to do that for now. We're not even going to think about injuries. I think Waller in this offense, it's going to be a lot more pass heavy than last year, should get about 140 to 150 targets.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a lot. Wow.
If he gets 150 targets, which that's going to mean he stayed healthy, he's the number 2 tight end in fantasy.
And that's why I have him as ranked as the number 2 tight end in fantasy. I think anyone has the same kind of upside as him behind Kelsey. I mean, just look at the preseason game where he was the entire offense, essentially, the entire passing game, essentially. And I just feel like that whole offense is set up to run through him this year. So if they are what they were last year, a super run heavy team, that's going to be a bad prediction. I just feel like This year, too, for Daniel Jones is all about getting to pass heavy and using Barkley as more of a playmaker than a workhorse, because in the middle of last season, Barkley wore down and averaged 3.3 yards per carry for a 4-game stretch because he was utilized as such a workhorse. And I don't think that's what they want. Now let's go to the next one. Darius Slayton, to me, is the obvious number 2 target getter. I get him in the last round of every draft. I don't understand why nobody likes him. If he had played all season last year, he was weirdly benched for the first 4 games, quote unquote bench. He just didn't move up the depth chart fast enough. But then if he had played the entire season, he was on track for over 1,000 yards. I just feel like he has the best rapport with Daniel Jones on the roster. I'll put him around 100 to 105 targets this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, I think this is going to be much more pass-heavy offense. Then I'm going to
do too. I completely agree with that.
I'm going to put Isaiah Hodgins next, just because I think he's going to be on the field a lot because he can block and because he's big and he's one of the only guys who can play the boundary for this team. And I'll put him around 80 targets. And then moving down past the depth chart, Paris Campbell probably in the 60 to 80 range. Jalen Hyatt probably in the 40 to 50 range there.
Okay. Did you say Barkley?
Oh, Barkley as well. I'll work him in here. I think his volume is going to go way down in 2023. I think the offense is going to change a lot. So I'm going to put him. How much? Do you know how many targets he had last year, Adam?
I think about 85, and that's somewhere in there.
So I'll put him closer to the 60, 65 range targets.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. This is from C4 in Billysburg, Virginia. Dear Cedric Alexander, DeMarcus, and Ezra. I don't know.
Cedric Alexander, DeMarcus. Damn it, I'm not going to do it.
Ezra should give it away. Am I crazy for seeing a crazy high ceiling for Kirk Cousins this year?
No. I mean, look, top 3 in pass attempts last season,
right?
So added to the receiving core with what I think is an upgrade in Jordan Addison over Adam Thielen, full year of TJ Hawkinson, maybe a suspect run game. I think we're all expecting a big year out of Alexander Madison, but Dalvin Cook was pretty productive last season to a degree. So I think it's not out of the realm of possibility, but in terms of breakout potential for his fantasy value, doesn't run, and that's an issue. So if he doesn't have this, I think, ridiculous touchdown season, you could still see a 4,500 yard year. But if he's not getting to 40 plus touchdowns, he's going to be somewhere between QB 10 and QB 15.
I think Jamie nailed this perfectly. If he wants to get into that breakout range, he has to throw more touchdowns like Herbert and Burrow. What are you shaking your head at over there?
I mean, look, it's just like, of course you think, JB, that's what you do. Yeah, I think
somebody nails it. I've done that first of all. It's my first time this show doing that. And if somebody nails a take perfectly, there's no point in me being like, oh, he didn't do a good job. Here's this. Sometimes you just call out good takes. Like, that's how it goes, Adam. Okay.
Sometimes, yeah. Okay, that's fine.
First time I've said it. But like the point is, like, to break out and become like the Burrow Herbert where we draft those guys, it's all about touchdowns for these guys who don't run. So it really is just a bet on, do you believe that somebody like Addison can take his touchdown total up much higher, in my mind?
I love the idea of the way we draft and what most of my personal drafts have been, where Cousins goes outside the top 12. Our ADP suggests he goes inside the top 12. And so what I love to do is Richardson, Tua, pair those guys with Cousins. And even, if you want to go Watson and Dak as well.
No comment. Right, Matt, I agree.
This is totally Matt in Massachusetts. Is Ty Chandler worth holding onto as a handcuff now that the Vikings got Myles Gaskin? Would you hold Ty Chandler over Zach Moss or Kendry Miller? I need to drop one of these 3 before week 1. So I just answered that question real quick, Jamie. Would you drop Ty Chandler, Zach Moss, or Kendry Miller?
I would drop Zach Moss just because I don't think this Colts offense is going to produce enough for its running back to be successful. So, yes, that'd be the guy I dropped.
All right, we're going to take a break.
Well, no, in terms of Chandler, though, we got this question recently about Myles Gaskin. They put Nwagnu on IR. They put McBride on the practice squad. They needed bodies. And this is a guy, I'm sure Brian Flores, who's their defense coordinator, was with Myles Gaskin in Miami, was part of saying, hey, they're going to cut him. Go pick him up. Let's see what he has. He can play on special teams, too. So I think Ty Chandler's a great spot. Like, he's one of my favorite stash candidates. I put him with Tyjae Spears, with little below Kenneth Gainwell because of the opportunity, but like in the A-chain range, like I think Ty Chandler could be a real big factor this year.
Okay. Or now we're going to take a break. When we come back, I have one more email to read. It's about me. And
look at me.
And we'll do Apple Podcast questions and some YouTube. Monday's show, we will have a show on Labor Day. We'll do Fantasy Cops on Monday's show, and we'll be right back. All right. Agree or disagree, Dan Schneier? Because I give you a hard time every time you make me write an article, which is now 5 times this year, which is a 60% increase over last year. So we better stop. That rate better slow.
You didn't know that we got to do another pick by pick?
I don't think we have to do another
half PPR. Everybody screwed up the first one.
Yeah.
Someone wrote back to me. Someone who edited, one of our colleagues, wrote to me, "You should write more. I like your style, tight and bright."
Wow. Okay. Good for you, Adam. I guess. Look, he's right. Let's get you going. I could put you on for a weekly column every Wednesday.
So, he's wrong. He's wrong.
So for I don't know. Does our audience know like Dan's? I don't know if you're in charge of our content or you're certainly at that level of being in control of our content, along with RJ White. But I've said this to Adam for years, and you would love this because Adam's notes are amazing. He does such a I know I joke all the time. I don't read them. I really don't. But his notes are amazing just because you see the prep work that he puts in. I've said to him for years, he should just put some sort of like topper on it. And we should just publish his notes. He said, "No, that's my intellectual property. Why would I give that away?" You're giving it away on a show every day.
No, I'm not. There's so much more that goes into it.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
point.
If you put that out there,
not a good read. You know what? I'll tell you why.
It doesn't have to be a good read. I don't care if it looks like chicken scratch, like the Zach Galifianakis GIF. It's good once you understand what you're looking at.
Oh, I love this idea. A little inside FFT. We're going to have a conference call about this after the podcast, Adam. Get ready.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. All right. So Apple Podcast questions here. Please leave us a 5-star review. Mailbags continue throughout the season. All right. We do one every week. It's probably this same trio. So send your 5-star reviews with a comment why you like the show. Let it, will help us grow, all that. And then ask your question. This is from Lindsay Wolf. I stream kickers and DSTs all year. I take them with my last picks. We're drafting Wednesday, September 6th. Any advice on who to target that'll be left?
Jacksonville is always available, and they get Anthony Richardson week 1. As much as I love him, that's the week where he's probably going to be a little bit confused. So that's an easy one. Washington would be my favorite if they're available because they get Arizona. There's a lot of kickers. I mean, I'm not even going to know the names, to be honest with you. This is how unaware I am of the new kickers in certain spots. But Dallas's kicker, Aubrey something, or it's something Aubrey, is available. The new Patriots kicker, we know they always get points out of that spot.
The best advice I have on kickers is, and it's been tried and true for streaming kickers, look for the kickers who are at home and their team has the biggest point spread differential. So if a team's an 8-point favorite at home, target those kickers. Those are the ones who tend to be the weekly streamers at that position.
Indoors too.
And indoors too. Exactly.
Yep. You're right, Jamie. Good call. This one's from DeFons, man. Oh, let's see if Dan knows this one. Dear Jess, Nick, Winston, and Schmidt.
I know this one. New girl.
You're
never going to stop me on TV shows. And by the way, it remains to be, we haven't said it yet, absolutely appalling that you didn't know who Smash Williams was and Tim Riggins were. It's a disaster. You're watching
show. Doesn't know either.
You're watching show. Yeah. Okay, but this is not, Jamie doesn't come on and bash me for not knowing.
You won't make fun of Jamie, but you'll make fun of me.
I will make fun of Jamie.
The same exact thing.
Yeah, but let me make my point. Jamie doesn't come on this show and bash me for my lack of movie knowledge like you do. So, of course, I'm going to bash you for your lack of TV knowledge and pop culture. I mean, Friday Night Lights is up there for one of the most enjoyable shows you watch, but instead you're spending time watching what? Like
Frasier.
You're on season 6 of Frasier. The worst possible decision you can make to spend your time watching Frasier over something like Friday Night Lights. Like just a yuppie walking around Seattle. I'm Frasier. We went to dinner today. It was expensive. Frasier.
That's not a bad impression. It's a funny show though. It's also on Paramount Plus, Stan. So I try to do my part here.
There.
All right. This is DeFons man had an auction, a salary cap draft, and he was new to the draft. And he did a great job. So let's just pat him on the back. It was half PPR, and it was 12 teams. Trevor Lawrence, Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins. Jamie, who do you like better? Just kidding.
No, I would take Jacobs over Dobbins.
Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kyle Pitts, and Brandon Ayuk at flex. mean, this is a stud. This is 12 teams, and he did this with a salary cap draft with P. Ryan, Nico Collins, Charbonnet, Elijah Moore, Roshan Johnson, Romeo Dobbs on the bench. Terrific team. Way to go. Way to crush it.
That's an A+ for sure.
From a Toyota's a Toyota, which duo would you rather have, Bijan and Christian Watson or Stephon Diggs and Dameon Pierce? 10-team PPR.
Bijan and Christian Watson or Pierce and who?
Diggs.
I'm going to go Diggs and Pierce personally.
Diggs and Pierce.
Adam watches Frasier because he needs a pick-me-up after being ripped on by Dan every episode. It's true. My favorite part about Frasier is hearing Sideshow Bob moments. It's actually really funny. You can, when he gets irate about things and you're like, oh, that is so Sideshow Bob. It's great.
My favorite part about Frasier is when it's over.
No, you've never even seen it. You've never even seen it. You've never seen Cheers. You've never seen Taxi. You've never seen some of the best shows ever. And you get on me for not seeing Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights is one of the best shows ever. And it's
I've heard great things, but you've see Frasier, see Cheers.
What is the best comedy of the 80s?
Cheers.
You think so?
Well, you would know better than I would, I guess, but to me it's Cheers.
Cheers is up there.
What else would it be? I mean, I've seen like Growing Pains and Charles in Charge. I like those.
Full House. I mean, obviously, take it for what's worth.
Full House is in the 90s.
Cosby Show.
Yeah, Full House I watched.
They were 90s shows.
90s.
Yeah, like Full House stinks compared to Cheers. Cheers is an absolute classic.
No, Cheers was gold.
Yeah.
What else? Night Court. Night Court was great.
Oh yeah, I don't really remember it that well, but I remember liking it. Dan, you're aware that Frasier was on Cheers, right?
Yeah, I know it's a spinoff of Cheers. Correct.
This is from TXG8R. If you take away all the podcasts that are boring, take away all the podcasts that have bad analysts, and finally take away the other podcasts that don't have Acer stats, and you're left with CBS Fantasy Football, which has more info and laughs per cast than any other. Nice. Thank you. I got a 12-team, 3-wide receiver PPR Superflex salary cap draft this week. Imagine if you have no idea what fantasy football is, and someone says, I have a 12-team, 3-wide receiver PPR Superflex salary cap draft. You would never play. You'd be like, what are you doing?
I had so my son's on a basketball team that I coached. His coach now is his son. I coached his son the previous season, so we met for the first time. And so he came up to me after coaching his son for 3 months. He came up to me the other day. He's like, "Man, I didn't know who you were." And I said, "Well, we met before." He said, "No, I'm not into fantasy. So somebody was telling me like, oh, you got his son on your team. That's really cool. But I don't know what you do." I'm like, most people don't.
PPR, 2QB. Yeah. So the question was, I've never been in a Superflex league before. How should I approach this auction? How much of the budget should I allocate for quarterbacks?
I think this one's such a tricky question for me because my analyst answer is you should be allocating over 50% of your budget toward quarterbacks, or about 50% of your budget toward quarterbacks. And that means, yes, spending on a QB3, which I think is incredibly important in Superflex League. But I've heard from those, and I haven't been a part of this, but I've heard from those people who are in these new Superflex leagues, the league of people who aren't used to playing Superflex, that it takes a year or two, sometimes longer, not longer, but about a year or two for people in the league to kind of wisen up to the idea that this is the scarce position. It's the most valuable position. I need to spend my budget on it. And sometimes you can get guys really cheap early on. So it depends on your league, but I would say feel it out at the beginning. If the quarterbacks are going for the prices they should be, which is essentially look at our Superflex mocks. Jamie just had one that published to the site today, and look how many quarterbacks are going early and understand that that's where all the top money should be spent. If that's happening in your league, then spend about 50% of your budget on your 3. But if it's not, and those guys are going cheap, you may be able to adjust down to that. But I think either way, you kind of want to make sure that you spend a lot of your budget at that position.
Okay. This is from Curtis. Hey, Jake, Jackson, DK, and Tyler.
Seahawks receivers.
Jake Bobo. I'm joining a new 12-team keeper league where we can keep 7 players with no limit on how long we can keep them. How should I approach the draft? It is 2-receiver league, 4 point per passing touchdown. Would you wait on quarterback? Would you draft like it's a dynasty league, keeping 7 for as long as you want? Pass on the older players? How would you approach this sort of hybrid, Jamie?
Yeah, we always get this question. I'm in a dynasty league and it's 7 players, but I mean, like, you should approach it that way, with the idea of that's the core of your team. You want to have those guys for as long as you possibly can. So I don't know if I want to pass on quarterback. I think getting one of these younger guys, and that's the nice part of where we are in the NFL right now. Like, you can get 7 years out of almost all of the top 8 guys. I mean, you have maybe some concerns about Lamar and his style and Fields and his style, but I mean, obviously Mahomes is looking to give you 7 years of great production. Allen, Hurts. I guess maybe some concern about him, but in terms of Herbert and Burrow and those young guys, like they're fantastic. Lawrence as well. So I wouldn't pass on quarterback, but yeah, I think you skew a little bit younger. So when it comes to the point where we're looking at Joe Mixon versus Jahmyr Gibbs, like I'm torn on that in redraft. In dynasty, it's a no-brainer. Or in this type of league, it's a no-brainer. You're pulling the trigger on Gibbs over Mixon. You're taking a chance on, probably somebody like Dameon Pierce over Aaron Jones, that type of decision, so where there's significant, age disparity. And obviously when we talk age NFL, 27 versus 24, it's big for that position. So younger receivers, like it comes down to, a Jackson Smith and the Jigba versus a Marquise Brown, I'm seeing guys in a similar range, like always skew toward the younger guys.
Okay. Can you please, Dan, get out of the chat?
What did you say?
Can you please get out of the chat, Dan?
Oh, Gamer.
We have a comment from Gamer Eric that says JB's absolutely right.
I had to hold back, honestly, when he was done with that, saying I agree, because I did think that was good analysis.
Very good advice. Very good advice. This is from Debbie Shoe 318. My home league is Superflex. I've been in it for 6 years. My league mates do not tend to draft quarterback like a normal Superflex leagues would. They usually wait until the 3-4 turn. Do you recommend I jump on 2 quarterbacks with the 1-2 to guarantee 2 studs?
I do, yes. I think if you can get 2 stud quarterbacks in that, I think there's such a difference between those top 7 quarterbacks this year, maybe 8 if you want to throw in one more. But I think there's a big difference between those top 7, especially in Superflex. And if you can get 2 of those guys in a Superflex, I think you're in excellent shape for the season.
Well, we didn't really talk about this on the show Friday, Thursday night, whenever we recorded it. So we had our Superflex mock. Dan, I don't know if you're the one that read the story, so you have an idea of what we're talking about here. But Adam, you ended up with 4 quarterbacks, right? If I'm not mistaken, you were one of the 3 guys with 4 quarterbacks. And you didn't have the ability to get that second one relatively early because you had the first overall pick taking Mahomes. So I was shocked beyond belief that Trevor Lawrence fell to 12. Like, that was, to me, the gift of all gifts. I was planning on no quarterbacks with my first 2 picks. And I'm like, once I got Lawrence, I'm like, I'm just going to lean into it. I took Tua at 13. But did you feel a little bit frustrated not having that top tier second quarterback, or did you? I mean, obviously you got a gift laying in your lap with Bijan, but how did you feel not having two standout quarterbacks right away?
No, I mean, look, when you draft Mahomes in a 12-team league, you're not going to have, in all likelihood, you're not going to have a second top 8 quarterback.
Well, you're not gonna get top 8, but
even second top 12. So I went into it thinking that maybe I'd get someone like Cousins in round 2, but I think in Superflex, I took Bijan Robinson at 24 and CeeDee Lamb at 25, and then Rodgers, Cousins, Geno Smith, they were all available after. I would do the same exact thing over and over again. My quarterbacks are Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Brock Purdy, and Baker Mayfield. I hope I have some trade bait there when there's an injury, like I said, but I've said this a lot with Superflex leagues, with 2 quarterback leagues. I have seen so many different strategies win leagues. And sometimes it's quarterback heavy and, take 2 with your first 2 picks, 2 with your first 3. Sometimes it's take 1 early and 1 in round 7. And I've just seen all these things work. So even in a Superflex league, I think Bijan Robinson is more valuable than Kirk Cousins. And I think CeeDee Lamb probably is too. So I'm just not going to reach for that quarterback. I'm fine. I definitely want 1 stud. That's my only thing, is I definitely want 1 top 8 guy. I don't need 2. And I don't even need 2 top 12.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at last year, and Marone Bergson won the league. His lineup was ridiculous, but he had Burrow and Fields. So it wasn't just that he had those 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah. When did he draft Fields? He drafted Fields probably as QB, I don't know, 15-ish.
But his other quarterback was Mac Jones. So I don't know what happened during the course of the season, but I was just looking at his end of year roster. But he had like Jalen Waddle and Amon-Ra St. Brown and it was Cam Akers and some other really good running, or Ramondre Stevenson might have been on his team. It was just stacked lineup across the board.
Justin Fields was QB 17 last year.
Yeah, but QB 17 is still getting drafted probably in the 4th or 5th round.
Yeah, that was the second to last pick of round 3. It was 35th overall
this year.
No, last year.
So yeah, so he still had to take him early.
He did, but he hit on that pick. Like that was right after. That was after Carr, Rodgers, Stafford, just before Tua, just before Jameis Winston. But yeah, so Marone had the 11th pick, and he went Eckler, Burrow. So,
yeah, and he immediately said to me afterwards, like, I hate my team, I hate my strategy. And this is again the guy who won it last year. And he's honestly like one of the best fantasy players we have on our staff. Like he won, I think, 2 of our big analyst leagues last year. This one in particular, and then our fantasy football today one. I guess he didn't anticipate me going quarterback. So I think he thought he was going to get Tua. But again, going Eckler and Kelsey is not a bad start. And he cobbled together his quarterbacks. It's Kenny Pickett and Derek Carr and CJ Stroud. I forget who the 4th one is, but he has, just a bunch of number 2 quarterbacks that hopefully one of them or both of them hit.
All right. I got some YouTube questions to read here. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Let's see. I'll go through them. Would you rather have Nico Collins or Rashad? Let's call him Jason Bateman or Rashad Bateman.
I'm on the Nico Collins train. I think there's a very good chance Nico Collins could be a true number 1 there with CJ Stroud.
Agreed.
You know what? Before I do this, I'm sorry. I have to take a break. So we'll take a break, and then we'll come back, and we'll do your YouTube questions. Our first YouTube question was Nico Collins versus Rashad Bateman, and we agreed it is Nico Collins. The second one is from Dan. It says, great analysis, Jamie. Actually, in your football. Any interest in Jake Bobo in Dynasty?
No.
By the way, Jake Bobo's first name is actually Jackson. So they have 2 Jacksons in their wide receiving unit. Jake Bobo in Dynasty?
No interest for me.
Okay. People want to know about Cooper Kupp, LOL.
We discussed at the beginning, did we not? Or no, I think it was 15-5. Look, so I am a big believer in injury-prone year to year being a fake thing that we mostly overstate as analysts, but I'm not a fan of drafting already injured players. That's what I don't like, especially if those players have soft tissue injuries. And that's exactly what Cooper Kupp has, already injured with a soft tissue injury. Even once he comes back, there's a risk of re-injury, but worse, there's a risk of a compensation injury like we saw with Kendre Miller, who had the knee injury, and now he has the hamstring injury, trying to come back too fast off it. So I am personally not willing to take Cooper Kupp before late round 3, early round 4. And even then, I feel queasy doing it.
Wow, before round 3.
Yeah, wow. I'm deep on it. I can't do it.
It's not a bad way to approach it. There's so many quality players in the first 2 rounds that, if you just want to avoid the potential risk. The flip side of that obviously is, he plays 14 games, 13 games, and is Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
You could be passing on the best receiver, maybe the best non-quarterback in fantasy. So that's the risk.
Okay.
I'm surprised Heath is the most aggressive drafting him in round 1, and he's been so adamant about avoiding injured players this year. I'm surprised he's still sticking with it.
He's got him with a 1-2 turn, I think.
Yep.
This is an easy one, I think. How early would you take Kelsey in PPR tight end premium? 1.5 points for a tight end catch.
I think
1.1.
Yep.
Absolutely. How long does Anthony Richardson stay the starter in Indianapolis before his passing gets him benched?
I don't think they're afraid of losing.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's getting benched without being hurt.
I completely agree with that. Oh, shit. I did it again.
Oh, my God. Oh. Wait a second. Are you kidding? I mean, not only did you agree with Jamie, which is great because then I can make fun of you for it.
Mute me.
You really just did that?
Mute me.
I'll get rid of it.
Yes.
I can't believe it. I have to write profanity on the time code in my notes right now.
But you have to leave the rest of this, though. You have to leave the rest of this so that people have to guess what they said.
Of course, I'll leave the rest of it. All I'm taking out is the curse word. Even I don't really think Richardson's going to get benched unless he is just terrible. It would have to be a confidence thing for him. We're ruining this kid. So they'll stick with him. They're going to be... here's honestly realistic scenario is they have the number 1 pick in the draft next year. And you have to think about that. I think it has to be in the back of your mind for Richardson's dynasty value because if they are that bad, they're drafting Caleb Williams.
No, No.
Yes.
No.
He's such a better prospect than Anthony Richardson.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. But
you draft him.
But what did the Bears just do?
You don't trade out. You don't trade out. They had 2 years to.
The Bears just did it with only Bryce Young being the top quarterback in this class.
Okay, but
the Bears would have taken. I mean, without knowing, the Bears would have taken Caleb Williams
too. I think everyone basically has to take Caleb Williams. Everyone in discussion. That's just me, but I don't.
Richardson. You can maybe get a first-round pick for Richardson, but
I don't think that would happen. I think they would get at best a 2. I don't think unless there was.
I mean, he's got to be an epic failure for that to happen.
Yeah, because
this guy is such a good prospect that you do it. You take Caleb Williams if you have.
If I'm the Colts, I want to finish 3rd.
No, I want to finish 1st. I want Caleb Williams. I don't give a crap about.
I think you're wrong.
Throwing the towel on Richardson.
I think you're wrong.
All right. Well, I think you're wrong. Parker says, ask Jamie why he pronounces GIF wrong.
It's supposed to be Jeff.
I think we're done with that. That was so like 15 years ago.
We're done with it, but I'm pretty sure the answer is Jeff.
It was always so dumb. This is the guy who invented the thing, I guess, said it should be GIF, but he just did that to screw with us because obviously it should be GIF. So I don't know. We shouldn't just take his word for it.
I'll take the word of the inventor over you.
Okay, I won't though. Do you like Jordan Love in Superflex Dynasty as a QB2?
I think if you have Adams build, where you have Mahomes or an early quarterback,
very skinny. Yeah, Adams build.
If you have Adams roster construction, then something where you're picking early in the 1st round and you're getting one of those elite quarterbacks, and then you're just getting some just crazy value like Bijan Robinson falling to the end of round 2 or whatever it works out in your favor. Then yes, I think Jordan Love is a good QB2. However, I would probably look to double tap the position right away and go Jordan Love and Kenny Pickett, or Love and Howell, or Love and Carr, just to make sure I have 3 guys, but that second quarterback is someone that I can rotate in if I need to.
Yeah, if you have Adams, Bill, you're going to want to hit the gym immediately and bake a lot more burgers.
Adam, how much do you weigh now?
I went to the doctor yesterday, actually, or Wednesday. I think the scale was a little heavy, to be honest with you. But they said 146. And I had my pants and I had everything but my shoes on. I had my wallet and my
water that day.
Well, your wallet's 5 pounds.
There's not a shot in the 140s in my mind. Just not a shot.
Oh, no, I'm 100% in the 140. In fact, a few weeks ago, I was almost 150, and it was one of the heaviest I've ever been. So I had three CBS Sports Network shows, Draftathon, and a CBS Mornings appearance. And I was like, I have got to lose weight. I have been starving, but not starving myself, but I've been basically dieting for a week and a half. And tonight, college football is on, Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
Teams are on. I am at least 4 slices tonight.
Dan, what do you weigh?
I weigh 179. I'm the heaviest I've ever been in my life, but it's good. I think it's good weight, personally. I don't think it's not bad. It's just I've been lifting a lot.
If I were the heaviest I've ever been in my life, I would also tell myself it's good weight. So,
Adam, the fact that you think that once we have this competition next year and raise a lot of money doing so for St. Jude, our one-on-one athlete competition, the fact that you think you have any chance in any of the sports that are contact sports is hilarious to me at 146 against my 180.
I meant like speed.
I'm still faster than you. I'm faster than you at 179 than you are at 146. I'm
definitely not. We're running the 40 and you're going to lose. All right, one more question here. How do you feel about Jamal Williams in the beginning of the season in a standard scoring league? And what round would you draft Jamal Williams in that format?
He got great news this week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great news this week.
Like we have to rank him top 24 for week 1, right? At the minimum.
Yeah.
Titans, though. That's the toughest run defense last year in football.
But just from
they are good. You have to bank on his opportunity to fall into the end zone. The question will be is Taysom Hill healthy? I know he's still dealing with an injury too, because that's a factor. But I mean, he's their guy, and if they're going to win the game and they're playing with the lead, he's going to be the guy killing the clock. And so I don't mind him as a borderline. Certainly he's in the flex conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'll catch some passes while Kamara's out for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I'm going to say that one thing about that Superflex league we keep referencing. I'm pretty sure it's the only league I have Bijan Robinson in, and I would have been so upset if I walked out of. I think I'm going to be in 12 leagues. If I had walked out of all of them without Bijan, I can't remember if I have him in any other leagues, but I just love Bijan Robinson. I really wanted to make sure. If I had been in 11 drafts and my last one I had the number 1 pick, I would have taken Bijan.
Wow.
Bijan pick. I swear I would have. Anyway, any final thoughts, guys, to go into Labor Day?
Yeah, I mean, enjoy your Labor Day weekend. I hope you have some drafts this weekend as well. This to me is the most fun week in the draft, and it's the best because you get through the injuries. You're not going to get stuck with Jonathan Taylor in round 3 thinking it was a value and everything like that. So have a great weekend and enjoy your drafts.
Agreed.
Dan's right. All right, guys. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Maybe with JV, maybe not. We'll figure it out. See you soon.